to try to share the knowledge more easily. When you meet people, we all have a background, we all have a story, but the way I think is I want everybody to win.
Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Real Estate Investors Club podcast. I'm here today with Philippe Pouliot, who's going to tell us about some of the interesting things he does. Philippe is an investor. He's the founder of Metropolia, which he's going to tell us about, and also instrumental in creating a thing called Talia, which is really the reason why I wanted to have you on the show, Philippe. It's the first AI that can help us with le tal, so Talia.
Exactly.
Philip, thank you for joining me today. Do you want to just give us like a quick elevator pitch, who you are, what you do, and what led you to be on the show with me today?
Excellent. Thank you very much, Terry, for having me on the show. Very excited to be here. I'm a jack of all trades. I do many things. A real estate investor. I have bought a few properties in the past, sell them. I very like working with land. So subdivision, try to uh, densify the land as well. And I have some interest for AI digital product. So a few months ago, I started a platform, a website called Metropolia, Metropolia.ca. I do many things here. It's very exciting, and one of them is Talia. Yeah, it's a it's a tool that is going to be very useful for real estate investors here in Quebec. Imagine that you can have access to a resource about the TAL 24/7 that speaks any language, almost like 30 languages. You can talk to Talia in French, in Spanish, in Italian, and I tried the Creole as well. Um, it's a great resource. So I give myself a mission to help the real estate industry, especially the investors, to help them fast track their growth by providing some digital tools, some ways to learn better, faster information that is easily accessible. So this is a real estate hub that I created called Metropolia.
Okay, so a lot of stuff there. We're going to get into each one of those things because I think they each deserve a little bit of airtime. But why don't, because it's a real estate show, and I'm always curious to see what other active investors are doing. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your business model? Like, when did you get started, and what's your secret sauce? How do you make your money?
Okay, so there's different ways for the Metropolia to generate a revenue.
No,
One
no,
of
just hang on. Not Metropolia. Tell me about your personal real estate investment activities. Like,
Oh,
let's,
okay.
as a peer investor, tell us, tell our audience a little bit about what's your investing activity like.
Okay, absolutely, great. So I do a lot of prospecting for land. So I try to find either land or houses or plex that have a big area, so that I can do either like a subdivision. I can maybe, well, I don't build houses. I don't build plexes or anything. I'm not a constructor. So I try to see opportunity where what the current situation is and what it could be. How can we densify? How can we put more apartments, or can we build maybe um, uh, townhouses or something like that? So I try to find those opportunities, build projects, PIA. So it's project that the city needs to approve with the architecture, and that you got to make sure that it fits in the area. So I find those properties, and we try to subdivide the lot and resell. So it's like a wholesale, right?
Okay, and is there like a specific area where you do this, or it's kind of all over Quebec?
I mainly do these in on the south shore of Montreal. I'm open to different areas. There's always a learning curve, right, to know the market. So if there's a property that is on the North Shore or Montreal Island, depending on the specific area, it's something that I'm always interested in looking at. My father once told me, you never say no up front. You look at the opportunity and then you decide if you go or if you don't. So mainly South Shore, so Longueuil, Chambly, Carignan, Châteauguay, Valleyfield. It's I kind of cover like a large area still. Yeah, we did even like we had some opportunities in Sherbrooke. Some like it didn't go through, but still open to these areas.
So, a land guy. We don't have too many of you guys on the show. um, all right, but so let's move on to Metropolia. So, tell me, like, where did the idea for it come from, and what's your vision for what it is?
All right. So Metropolia, it came to me as a solution. I'm always solution oriented. Like I think that once you know the issue, well, you either have the solution or at least half of it. You don't focus on the problem, you focus on the solution. So one of the issue that I had as an investor is, I wanted to do more networking and wanted to be aware of different training that was available out there. But it was kind of hard to find because you always be looking, searching for that. It's yes, there's publicity. There's sometimes it's the information is provided on a website, on Facebook. Is it a Facebook event? Is it just a post? Is it so? The information is out there, but it's not that one specific place. So I've missed events in the past that I wanted to go because of that. And needless to say, I'm not the only one, right? I'm sure it may have happened to you as well, right? So I thought it would be nice to have a place where you can find all the events in one spot. And so I decided to do this part of Metropolia. But this is one thing. This is the event. There's the Talia that we talked about earlier. Talia it's wonderful. If you ever try to call the TAL, for those of you who are not there you go. For those of you who are not aware, the TAL is a Tribunal Administratif du Logement. Okay.
Used to be known as the artist previously known as La Régie du Logement, the Régie.
Exactly. It hasn't changed. Like I think the name has changed, but basically, like everything else, kind of remains the same. So, if you've tried to call in the past, you know that it's hard to get through to talk to someone. If unfortunately if you call and there's not someone there to pick up, well, you're not able to hold on the line for the next representative or something. You simply get like flushed out. So it's too bad, but that's the way it is, right? With the increased interest for Chat-GBT, I started wondering like, okay, what is these AI that we're hearing about? How can I apply this in my life? And the first idea that came to mind is with the TAL. Provide a resource that is going to be available 24/7, that is going to be able to give you answers based on real information, procedures, rights, obligations, and the Code Civil du Québec, like the basically like the law. So it's not far west here, like everybody else, right? You got to follow the rules. You got to know the rules and make your way through the restrictions and obligations. So to make a good business and ensure that the relationships with the tenants and landlords or at best. So I had the idea basically of creating Talia, great resource. Again, it's private. If you connect with her, I say her because it's obviously it's a chatbot, right? But the name came from Tal and AI, IA. So for me, it's a girl. Anyways, so when you talk to her, it's a private conversation. It's a conversation that you're having between you and her. It's not something that in the back end we see who's talking to her, because we don't have the names that are provided. If you buy a plan to talk to Talia, the conversations remains private, anonymous, and guess what? She remembers you. So next time you go and you talk, you ask her a question. If it's about the same situation, she knows. So okay, then she can answer to give you more directions on the possible solutions. It's one thing is very important to say. Talia is not a lawyer. She's never going to replace a lawyer. She doesn't give like advice. She provides information on which she was trained. So it's a great tool. Obviously, I highly recommend it. For like the people who are starting in real estate. See, that's one of the things. When you start a real estate investing, it's an amazing journey. You connect with people. I talked about a learning curve earlier, but for real estate investing, it's a very long learning curve. It can be very costly. So the more information, the easily accessible, the better. So Talia is a great resource for that, because hey, you just pop the question and here's the answer. So it's she's wonderful.
I love it. It's Chat-GBT for those of us who deal with the TAL. Is it already available? The tool's already available?
Yeah, absolutely. It's available on Metropolia.ca as we speak. So definitely connect. Like the most expense, like right now, it's available at the small cost, but like if you connect for a year, that's $149, which is peanuts, for the amount of money you can be saving by doing the right things, right? So
we had a bit of an off-camera chat about this when we first connected, but my first thought is, it seems like you've created like the atomic bomb, but is it not available to everyone? So have you not put something very dangerous in the hands on the other side? Well, like somebody with a tenancy issue, is Frappru gonna be your number one client on Talia? Is it biased to one side or the other?
It is built for real estate investors. It's to give them easily accessible information. The Code civil, well, the Tribunal Administratif du Logement, there's two missions. One is to protect the number of apartments, and the second is to protect the tenants. So it's a personal opinion, but I think at the start, at the starting line, the landlords are at the disadvantage. So it's an information, it's a resource that is built for them, so they have more knowledge and they can better navigate through the system, But like the idea is not to create conflicts. It's the complete opposite. And one of the first answers, actually, that the first sentence that Talia usually tell you is to talk to that person. It's the communication is key to resolving any issues. You got to start by talking to each other. So that's behind the idea behind it.
Okay. Well, like very interesting. I just purely for the introduction of that tool, I felt like we had to have you on the show. Have you really been listening to the episode, or has your monkey mind been taking you off in one direction or another? Our mental habits can be our biggest assets or our biggest liabilities as we pursue certain goals. For me, the biggest performance gains have always come from training my mind. In my book, Mindful Landlord, I talk about how you can train your mind and how you can apply some of these strategies to your journey in the real estate field. The book is available on Amazon and also on its website, mindfullandlord.com. And now I'll stop evangelizing for the power of mental training and let you get back to the show. I want to now move to two questions that I ask most of my guests who come on. And, the first one is, in the real estate industry, I think we have a tendency to whitewash over the difficult parts of our journey. When people get up on stage or when they're talking in public, it's always, this is the size of my portfolio. This is how many deals I can do. Like, look how wonderful I am, basically. But we all had to do things on our path to success. I call it the lifestyle hit. So
Yeah.
we all had to take lifestyle hits to get where we are. And I wonder if you could just share with our audience a little bit what that journey was like for you. What are some of the things that you had to sacrifice maybe to get to where you are today?
That's a very good question. I feel like I'm under a spotlight. The so yes, absolutely. There's if there's no pain, there's no gain. You have to make sacrifices, and that's for everything. So you either make the sacrifices up front, so you don't have to feel pain later on, or you don't make the sacrifice now. You feel the pain, and that's going to be a sacrifice. But personally, like everybody else, I had my challenges. There's great opportunities that I missed, and the sometimes you have to make the choice of purchasing like a new car, or like just maybe not a new car, even just a car, and you say, okay, I'm going to share this one with my wife, or I'm going to delay buying another one, or whatever. You got to make choices instead to invest. We did that. When we first started, I was living in I don't even know if it qualifies as a 1.5 in Montreal on the Saint Denis. So that was a long time ago. So instead of like we had a property in Sainte Therese, very large, 5.5 apartments, very big, very spacious. But we were living in like this tiny, like a studio. You would get in, and it would be living room, the living room, the bedroom, the kitchen, the dining, like everything was right there. you know but because we made the sacrifice up front that okay, we were going to live in a very small apartment for now, and invest the money, make the sacrifice. Now, well, we're able to purchase something bigger, so we're more comfortable nowadays than we were when we first started. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think the first sacrifice is definitely where you're living.
Hmm.
That was for us. First investment, I actually lived in one of the apartments. So that was the instead of buying a house up front, I bought a triplex. I went to live there for a few years. Then very small apartment. We had the triplex, and then move on to something else. But I think that's for me, that was a good path. That was sacrifices that needed to be done, and I used that as not a rocket ship, but now I'm doing better now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, first of all, everybody who I have on the show has a story like that. And it's not always the same story, but everybody has a story of some kind of, delayed gratification or some
Exactly.
kind of a situation that they accepted, as kind of the price you pay to end up where you are. And, there's also a common thread through like a lot of real estate people, that sacrifice ends up being something to do with housing. So whether it's less square footage, whether it's living in the kind of neighborhood or an area that you wouldn't want to live in for a certain amount of time, like, because housing is your biggest expense, like in a financial portrait, housing tends to be your biggest expense. That ends up being a place where, like, a lot of real estate people do make sacrifices. So, I think that's on the one hand quite typical, but at the same thing, it's on every personal journey. Hearing that, I think, for our audience members is good, because I think it's um humbling, and it makes the journey seem more accessible too, because people who are, maybe in their early 20s and starting out, when their friends are buying condos or buying bigger cars, they can say, okay, well, look, like, this is the typical journey of a real estate investor, is that we'll have to be doing something for a few years that maybe doesn't seem glamorous, but the results are there in the end. So thanks for being in the hot seat and sharing that. um the next question that I like to ask my guests is, what do you think we should be talking about in the industry that we're not talking about? Like, there's a lot of certain subjects get a lot of airtime. But what do you think should be talked about more that we're not addressing as an industry?
Personally, what I think is helping each other. To try to share the knowledge more easily. When you meet people, we all have a background, we all have a story, but the way I think is, I want everybody to win, and I gotta say me as well. And I think we could all benefit if the information was shared more fluently, more generously. There's so much to learn, and you see some people are doing it. That you have there's people like you. The podcast. I'm just a little plug for you. It's one of the things that I do on Metropolia. I share a list of podcasts that I think you should go and register to follow, because this is good, easy information that can build or sculpt your mindset. Give you tricks on how to invest, find new ways actually to invest, because a lot of people think that flipping in real estate, a flip is buying a house, doing some renovation, and sell it. But there's a whole world of flipping out there. So just by being more generous in the community, I think sharing that information more with Facebook lives, and I think this is a great way to give back. So I'm trying to do my part as well, and thank you for doing yours. It's great to your podcast is just amazing for that. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's I like that you said that. I think, one of the things that bugs me a bit in our industry sometimes is I feel like people tend to have a zero sum mindset, like, my portfolio gets bigger at the expense of other people, and so I'm going to not share information, not maybe be vulnerable with my own journey. That's a big one. That's why I asked the previous question to all my guests, is because I think everybody likes to project this image of success of where they are today, but the vulnerability of sharing, this is what it took me to get here, and this is what I was doing 2 years ago, so that you person who's listening to that can kind of identify and see that. I think those are kind of sharing experiences that help lift everybody up, as opposed to playing a zero sum game where I'm not going to share this information, or I'm not going to make something available, because if I give it, somebody else might win, and as a result, I might lose. So,
Yeah.
I think that's great, and I think that the tools that you've created speak for themselves. Because by having Metropolia or having Talia, which has a small cost, like, those are basically information sharing systems, and that's something that I think our community really could profit from.
Yeah, and I have I'm very grateful that, like, different associations and clubs and schools, they're willing to share also the information with me, so that I can put it on the platform, and everybody can benefit from that. So it's all big it's a team effort, right? So I'm hoping that we can see more and more of that in the next few years.
Win-win. All right.
Exactly.
So, Philippe, look, we're just about out of time. So I want to thank you for being on the show. How can our audience connect with you if they want to learn more, if they want to connect with you? Yeah.
Yeah, they can contact me directly on the platform, Metropolia.ca, the contact section, or you can send me an email also at support@Metropolia.ca, and I'd be happy to chat.
Great. Well, Philippe, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me, to share what you're doing with our audience. And for those of you in the audience who found this constructive, don't hesitate, like the show, share it with somebody who you think might be interested. Obviously, I think Talia is a really cool thing. So go check that out and make sure that people know about it.
Thank you very much. And don't forget to subscribe, Metropolia.ca. We'll keep you informed of what's going on in the industry.
Thank you.
Thank you.